Ollie the octopus wiggled all 8 arms and said, "I've got a splashy idea." Pearl the oyster peeked from her shell, wondering why the water felt extra bubbly. Bubbles the seahorse zipped past, laughing as Zip the electric eel made zigzag shapes in the sand like a wiggly signature. They met in their favorite coral corner, where seaweed swayed like dancing ribbons. "Let's share our art with friends above the waves," Ollie said, pointing upward. Pearl clapped her shell so hard, a tiny crab tumbled in and muttered, "Watch it." Everyone giggled at the crab's tiny, grumpy face. Bubbles spun in a loop and asked, "But how will our pictures get up there?" Zip twitched his tail, sending a spark that startled a sleepy clam. "We'll invent something new," he said, with a grin wide enough to anchor a ship. Ollie's eyes gleamed like shiny sea glass. Ollie spread out a sandy sketch pad and drew a balloon shape. "Ink balloons," he announced proudly. Pearl tilted her shell and asked, "Will they pop like last time?" The group giggled, remembering the soggy mess when a balloon exploded ink all over Zip's scarf. In the kelp lab, Pearl mixed colorful ink while Bubbles blew big bubbles over her head. Zip zipped around, squeezing each bubble to test its strength. "This one could carry a whale," he joked. A whale nearby shook his head slowly, clearly not volunteering for bubble transport duty. Ollie tried filling a bubble with shimmering ink, but it splashed right into his face. "Now I'm a spotted octopus," he said, blinking through blue dots. Everyone laughed. Pearl gently wiped his eyes with a soft piece of sea sponge, careful not to smear the new polka dot pattern. Bubbles suggested adding a frame so the art wouldn't wobble around. "Bubble frames," she cheered, spinning so fast she made a perfect circle. Zip zipped through it, leaving tiny sparks that made the frames sparkle. Ollie clapped his arms like a seal watching a shiny fish. They tested a bubble frame by adding Ollie's ink drawing inside. Pearl admired the floating picture of a dancing starfish. "It looks ready for the big show," she said warmly. The starfish blushed so pink that even the coral looked jealous of its new color. Zip brought out glowing paint made from deep-sea plankton. "It's like painting with lightning," he said proudly. Bubbles gasped when her tail lit up from a stray drop. Ollie laughed, saying she looked like a disco seahorse, ready to boogie across the ocean floor. Ollie painted a silly portrait of Pearl, showing her shell wearing sunglasses. "Stylish," Pearl said, pretending to strike a pose. The group laughed so hard that a nearby jellyfish wobbled like a bowl of jelly, bouncing gently with each giggle they made underwater. They decided to combine ink balloons, bubble frames, and glowing paint together. "Triple art power!" shouted Bubbles, twirling until her head spun. Zip zipped to catch her before she bumped into a crab. The crab held up a sign saying, "No spinning zone," which made them laugh harder. Pearl made a test balloon and let it float upward. "It's on its way," Ollie cheered. The curious turtle wearing a brown hat surfed by, waving at the floating picture. Bubbles waved back, nearly forgetting she was underwater, and almost tried to whistle. Bubbles asked, "Do you think the turtle will show it to the flying fish?" Zip nodded. "Maybe they'll hang it in the sky," he joked. Ollie imagined clouds shaped like jellyfish and laughed so much that his ink sketch pad nearly floated away. Ollie wanted to send more pictures, so he drew a purple flying fish with goggles. Pearl giggled. "It looks like it's zooming right out of the balloon." Zip pretended to chase it, zooming in circles until he got dizzy and had to flop onto the sand. Zip painted a blue octopus wearing a red striped scarf. "That's me on a fancy day," he said proudly. Bubbles added tiny bubble hats to the picture, making it extra silly. Ollie chuckled, saying it looked like an underwater fashion show on parade. They sent the new balloon upward, watching it wobble past curious dolphins. "Don't pop it, please," Ollie called. One dolphin pretended to chase it, but gave a playful wink before diving away. Pearl sighed in relief as the balloon floated safely higher. Pearl suggested adding jokes to the art. "Why did the clam blush?" she asked. "Because it saw the ocean's bottom." Ollie groaned, but laughed anyway. Bubbles made the clam in the picture turn bright red, just to match Pearl's joke perfectly. Bubbles drew a crab doing a funny dance with wiggly legs. Zip zapped the edges so they glowed like a disco sign. "It's like a dance party under the sea," Ollie said, bobbing to an imaginary beat, while Pearl clapped her shell like a drum. They worked all afternoon, sending balloon after balloon to the surface. Pearl kept careful track so none floated away without a frame. "We're like postal fish," Bubbles joked. Zip pretended to stamp each balloon with a wiggly, eel-shaped signature. Ollie noticed the sky turning gold above the waves. "It's perfect for our glowing art," he said. Zip added extra sparks to make the colors pop. Pearl admired the shimmering effect, saying it looked like the ocean was tickling the sunset with paint. Pearl sent a balloon with a picture of a green turtle surfing. "That's our friend up there," she said proudly. Bubbles clapped her fins, making a bubbly applause sound. Ollie cheered so loudly that a passing fish covered its ears. Ollie painted a silly scene of a flying fish wearing goggles and sipping tea. "Stylish and thirsty," he said. Zip laughed so hard he made a loop-de-loop in the water. Pearl pretended to sip tea from her shell, pinky fin raised. Bubbles created a frame shaped like a giant seashell. "It's my masterpiece," she said proudly. Pearl nodded and said, "It will look fancy above the waves." Ollie whispered, "It might even make the sky smell like clams," causing everyone to laugh. They began imagining what friends above might say. "Maybe they'll wonder how the art floats," Ollie said. Zip added, "Or think it's sky jellyfish." Bubbles laughed so hard she accidentally made a bubble shaped exactly like a jellyfish hat. Pearl sent up a balloon with a picture of a blue octopus in a scarf. "That's definitely Zip," Bubbles giggled. Zip posed dramatically, pretending to model the scarf, while Ollie pretended to be a fashion photographer snapping pictures. Ollie decided to make one huge balloon carrying a group portrait. "Everyone say seaweed," he joked. Pearl rolled her eyes but smiled. Bubbles made a silly face, and Zip puffed out his chest like he was the captain of the art team. Bubbles filled the frame with playful swirls, while Zip added sparkles. The portrait showed all of them laughing under the waves. Pearl tapped the shell edge, making a soft drum sound, as Ollie added a tiny fish photobomb in the corner. They watched the giant balloon rise slowly toward the surface. "It's like sending our friendship to the sky," Pearl said softly. Ollie patted her shell gently. Bubbles sighed happily, twirling in the water while Zip zipped around the balloon in excitement. Above, seabirds circled the balloon curiously. Maybe they'll become our art fans, Bubbles said. Zip imagined birds wearing tiny scarves. Ollie laughed and suggested they could start a Sea Meet Sky art club for anyone with feathers or fins. More balloons floated upward, creating a colorful trail through the water. "It's an underwater rainbow delivery," Ollie said. Pearl clapped her shell in delight. Zip zipped through the colors, pretending he was the fastest rainbow rider in the sea. They rested on the sandy floor, watching their creations drift away. "I feel like a famous sea artist," Bubbles said. Zip agreed, "and we didn't even need a gallery." Ollie added, "Just a lot of bubbles and a pinch of teamwork." Pearl looked at Ollie and said, "We worked together and made something amazing." Ollie replied, "Teamwork makes the tide work." Everyone groaned at the pun, but laughed anyway. Bubbles nearly fell over from giggling, and Zip pretended to swim away from the joke. The last balloon carried a picture of them all waving. "Goodbye, Art," Bubbles called. Zip sent a tiny spark to guide it upward. Ollie watched it float away, imagining it waving back at them from the clouds above. As the balloon vanished into the golden light, Ollie said, "Our art can reach any world."